That's one of the big things I look for in this is some of these areas that have a little more patchy weeds. You can actually see a couple fish right there. I'll try to circle them. They're right up on that weed edge. There you can see it going down. Bobber's top going down, fish going towards it, and bobber is down. There we go. There we go. Just a second. Slack out. Well, there we go. A little bit better one. Another in that kind of same size structure here. Welcome back. It is midday right now for a couple reasons. One, because we just got done with the first week of school and there's no tired like first week of school tired for a teacher. So had a tough time getting out of bed this morning, but here we are. And the second reason is the bite that we're gonna be doing today is actually a pretty good midday bite. You know, on these deep clear lakes, it's gonna be challenging to find some of these good midday bites. You know, a lot of times it's early morning, late in the evening. So I wanted to showcase that a little bit, but today what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be targeting walleyes in and around the weeds. Sometimes they might be a little more on the weed edge, sometimes they might be up in some of these pockets of weeds, but we're gonna kind of detail exactly what I do, how I find these areas, some of the things that I'm looking for, and then how I go about trying to get some of these fish to bite and how I can use some of my electronics to help with that. So we're gonna dive right in. All right, so what our kind of plan is going to be is we're going to be going kind of on the edge of these shallower, kind of mid-range actually, you know, maybe that 10 to 15 foot range, kind of these weedy flats. And so I have this big flat off to my right here, and I'm going to be driving into the wind, so that way if I see a group of fish, I can spot lock on them and we can cast to them. And I'm going to be using my Livescope, and I'm going to be kind of panning around onto the side to see if we're seeing fish on the weed edge, to see if we can see up into those a little bit and see if we can see any open spots. That's one of the big things I look for in this is some of these areas that have a little more patchy weeds. A lot of times those are going to hold some more fish because they are going to be in kind of around those edges where there's some thicker weeds. But when there's open spots like that, they can kind of ambush some of that smaller bait fish. So I'm kind of looking around here. I'll be panning around. Actually, you see one fish. We're in about 15 feet or so right here, and actually right there you can see about 60 feet out there's some kind of scattered weeds, and then right about there you can see about 5, 6, 7 fish kind of mixed into some of those weeds. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to spot lock right here. We're going to kind of cast on these fish. So I spot locked, and now we're about 50 feet off to the side. I'll cast out. So we're going to get a slip bobber out to start, and we'll cast over to those fish, see if we'll find some active ones. So as I kind of pan around, so you can actually see there's a couple fish right out in front here as well. Bait is going close to them. You can see another one coming up. Not interested yet. There, the bobber goes down. Still down. Give it a second. There we go. See what we got. Can see them still. A couple more. Not a big one, but a perfect little eater. Well, there we go. We got our first eater-sized walleye pitching in the weeds. Didn't take terribly long here. You can see a couple more out there. There's not a big group for sure. Oof, we'll get that guy off. He's feisty. Really quick, I'll also share kind of what we're using here. This is just a smaller short shank jig tied on to a little barrel swivel. Sometimes I need to add that extra weight, sometimes I don't. I could actually probably upsize a little bit with this wind. This one is the Norfin light bite bobber. I've been liking these. My buddy Lee suggested using these. I have been using the wobble bobbers. These do seem to get tangled a little bit less. I do like having the weight on there, just help it sit upright a little bit. Make sure we have the brass insert on whatever bobbers you're using. I have that to my main line, to my bobber stop. And the rod that I really like for slip bobbers is a 7-foot medium. I like a little more backbone, a little more length with my slip bobber rod, because sometimes you need to cover a lot of slack or take some big swinging hook sets. And this reel is one that I've been using a little bit more. It's a new one by Piscifun, is the Carbon Prism. Got some pretty cool colors. One is a purple color, one is this, I'm not really even sure what you would call it, but very impressed with these reels. You know, I kind of thought right away that maybe it would be a little bit of a downgrade, but this is a very high-end reel if you're used to the Carbon X lineup. Very light, very smooth. That's what I got rolling for my setup here. I still see a couple fish, and actually these last couple times I've been using a half a crawler. Sometimes that seems to be a little more effective on some of these fish that are a little bit more finicky. So we'll go back and forth between using a full crawler or a half crawler. I cast it out the first couple times and had the bobber go down and missed. So I switched up to a half crawler, and that is what I was able to get that one to bite on. So like I said, I can still see these fish up here. I'll cast on them one more time. See if we can't get another one to bite. Make sure we're recording. They're right up on that weed edge. There you can see it going down. Bobber stopped going down, fish going towards it, and bobber is down. Oh, and I pulled it right out of its mouth. But that is exactly what it should look like. They don't always go for it right away like that, but that one was sure convenient. We'll throw the other half of this crawler on and we'll see. That one, I might have stung a little bit. We'll see. They're not too far out, 20 feet or so right now. See if we can't get it to be active again like that, because that was the immediate next cast after my first one. You can see another one coming right up for it. Part of me wonders if this almost isn't a bass, the way that it's attacking it. Give it a little bit more of a second here. There we go. And we're hooked up. 3 casts in a row. And we have another walleye. This one should be boat flippable, yep. And there we go. And what you can see, I actually had a full crawler just come out of this guy's mouth. So this one has been hungry. Another eater size walleye mixing into the weeds right here. Pretty good start. We've had a little cooler temp, so I wasn't sure what the bite was gonna be doing. And I haven't been out hardly at all. So I really didn't know what this bite was gonna be doing, but so far we've had about 3 casts and 3 bites on this pot of fish. Nice to see when you have a group like this that's relatively active. Given these aren't big ones, these are your 15-inch eaters, but I will take those all day long. Well, I feel like I've been nonstop talking here. Good problem to have. We've been out about 15 minutes here, caught a couple, had another one bite, still have a few around. Haven't yet pitched back to that other one. I'm not sure if that's gonna be a walleye or bobber's down. We're gonna give it just a second because they've been so short biting. There we go. Let's see what we got. We have a walleye, another good eater. We're just continuing to kind of work through these weeds. We're seeing a lot of fish. I thought by the aggression of those first fish that we were really gonna be onto something. But the rest of these have been very finicky. I've had to work through a lot of different baits, a lot of different things. Came back to, whoa, like I was saying, had to work through a lot of different baits, a lot of different presentations. Came back to the slip bobber and crawler, and that's what got that one done. Just had to dangle it in its face a few different times. So you can see, I'll pan around one more time here just to show you exactly what we were looking at. These ones are a little more behind us. As I pan around, you can actually see a couple fish right there. I'll try to circle them. You can see those fish right in there, kind of mixed into those weeds, and that's exactly what we're looking for. As I pan around, you're looking for some of that separation, some of those smaller circles that are a little bit in some of those open patches moving around. You can even see some of those moving around just like that. So, pretty fun little pattern here, something I'm continuing to learn more and more about. We're gonna keep working some of these flats, trying to get a little more footage, especially on the Livescope for you. I think there was a fish. Man, it was just hanging on tight to that thing. Don't be a bass, don't be a bass. Walleye. Thing was just sitting sideways. A little bit better one. A little bit better one. Still in that eater size variety. But that one, just grabbed it. I could see my bobber kind of sitting sideways. You can see that group sitting over there a little bit more. These ones are out a little bit deeper. You can see some of those scattered weeds, but these ones are a little more off that weed edge. So A lot of the fish we've been seeing have been up into those weeds. As I was kind of leaving one of those shallow flats, I started seeing a few of these fish out on this edge. So you can see a pretty good little group there. Again, sometimes those fish will move in and out of those weeds. This one, when they're out of the weeds, obviously like this, you can see them a little easier. They're a little bit more grouped up. As I pan around, you can see some of those weeds, another group right there. See that group right there moving like that? That is a group of bass. When you see them moving like crazy like that, that is typically bass. There you can see is the group of walleyes there kind of staying put. So we'll cast another bobber on these, see if we can't get another one to bite. But otherwise I want to get back up into some of the shallower stuff to really identify some more of those walleyes in the weeds. I lost it. Look down, my bobber's down. Oh jeez. I just saw a new group of fish, so I was moving over to it. Sure enough, another walleye. Little guy. Right off the edge of those weeds there. One's looking right at it. There the bobber goes down. Get the slack out, and there we go. Just got to the next spot here. Feels walleye-ish. Oh yeah. Oh, get this guy off in the net here. Another in that kind of same size structure here. This one is a little bit different. We're still have that shallow flat off to our right here. Just got to a new area, started working. You can see there was kind of this weed edge that dropped off. I'll pan over there, see if you can see, because there's still one more. You can see one hanging right on that weed edge, but then as you see off to the side, pretty good group off to the side as well. So it got a little sunnier, as you can see here, and it seems like as it got sunnier, some of these fish slid out off this edge a little bit more. Earlier they were a little bit more up in the middle, mixing around those weeds. Now a few more have slid off the edge, so we're gonna fish some of these fish off the weed edge a little bit. So you can still see a few more back there. You see that one little bit bigger group that's off that edge even more, and then there's a few that were a little tighter to the weed edge, and that's the one that I just caught. Was there's a couple hanging out right tight to that weed edge, and that one came up and bit. I still see another one up a little higher, so we're gonna cast out there, see if we can't get that other one to bite here. Look at my co-host, lazy co-host. Willow, your bobber's down. Your bobber's down. Gotta go get it. Where is it? See? You don't even know where it is. You paying attention to where your bobber is? There it is. He's looking. Oh, there the bobber's down. That one was a little bit higher. A couple more of these, a little bit more active fish have been a little bit higher. Oh, and there we go. Let's see, everything's recording still. Those ones, you can see these fish were off a little bit higher on top of this weed edge. So they were still kind of hanging weed edge, but they were a little bit higher. That guy took it pretty good. Another great fish. And so you'll see, I'll kind of pan around here. As I get to this edge here, you can see it's a little bit thicker weeds. You can see some bait up on top, and then it gets to this weed edge. And sometimes you'll find that with these fish in those thicker weeds is you notice that these fish are a little bit more on that weed edge. They don't get tucked in quite as much. When you're looking at the sparse weeds, those are the ones that those fish are milling around, kind of like some of those first areas that we fished. These thicker weeds, looking a little bit more towards that edge. So being able to identify the weeds and see here, you can see on the Livescope, this is a little bit thicker. I can also see it on the side imaging. I'll throw in a screenshot here. So when you see that, you know that these fish are typically either gonna be on top of these weeds if they're shallow, or off the edge a little bit. Well, let's cast back to that group and see if we can tell what they are. One coming right up for it. There, the bobber's down. Reel out the slack. There we go. Not sure what this one's gonna be. This is coming out of that little bit bigger group here. Feels a little more bassy, but it's a little walleye. There we go. Well, maybe these fish are walleyes in a pretty good group out there. Bobber down. Another walleye. There we go. Another walleye right there. Pretty good groups here sitting off this weed edge. And just having to work hard to get these things to bite. One thing I might do is I might try to drop a camera down. Again, just like my last video, I think it was last video, Aquaview 822 HD, awesome camera. Got a lot of really great features. And honestly, I use this thing a ton when I'm scouting. Oop, getting bright there again. Honestly, I use this thing a ton when I am scouting because sometimes I either don't want to sit on these fish or I don't want to fish them, but I want to see what they are, and I can really differentiate quickly whether they're suckers or bass or walleyes without having to even catch ones. And actually this thing is one of my favorite tools to use with Livescope because Livescope can tell you a whole lot, and honestly once you get to read it, you can get a pretty good idea of what's going on down there and what you're seeing and what fish are, but there's still a lot of times where I am just not sure what I'm seeing and I don't want to waste time, so I'll drop my Aquaview down there just to make sure I am looking at what I think I'm looking at, to make sure they're the fish that I'm targeting. If you have a live imaging unit, I highly recommend looking into one of these Aquaview cameras because again, live imaging can tell you a lot, but it can't tell you everything, where this will give you a picture of everything that's going on down there. Looks like there should be some somewhere close here, so I'll drop this guy down, see what we're working with. Some suckers. Well, there you go. A lot of those fish are suckers, but obviously there's some walleyes mixed in with these things as well. It is.
Yeah, I follow you on Facebook.
Oh, you bet. Pretty good group of them off that little edge over there. But there was walleyes. They were a little more on top of the weed edge. The suckers were a little more off the weed edge. I'm actually filming a video as we speak, so you might get a shout out, Chad.
I was gonna say, give me a shout out.
We'll give you. Ha, you bet. Nice to meet you again, Chad. Got to meet Chad. Super nice guy, so shout out Chad. Hope you caught some fish. Well, we're running out of juice on the mic here, so I figured I better wrap this up. I'll keep fishing for a little bit. Looking forward to this fall. Got a couple trips hopefully planned up to Rainy Lake, do a little fishing up there, and otherwise just kind of back into the grind of school here. My guide season is done. Hoping to put out a little bit more content here this fall before we get into the winter season. But as always, thanks so much for watching. Appreciate the support, and we'll see you next time. How could I be so rude? I forgot to let Willow say goodbye. Say goodbye, Willow. Bye. Best co-host ever.